The most powerful weapons ever deployed on an aircraft carrier are already sailing across the oceans right now. America's Ford-class warships carry technology so advanced, it is changing naval warfare in real time, from AI-guided missiles to stealth fighters and future laser weapons. These carriers were built to dominate every battlefield on Earth. For decades, the Nimitz-class carriers dominated the oceans. Nothing came close. But then, the world started changing fast. China began building larger warships, advanced missiles started threatening carrier groups, and suddenly the old formula didn't feel untouchable anymore. And this is where everything changed. The Gerald R. Ford class wasn't built as a simple upgrade. The Navy redesigned almost everything from the ground up. Launch systems, radar, power generation, aircraft recovery, all rebuilt for a different kind of war, not tomorrow's war, today's. The goal was simple: create the most powerful strike platform ever placed at sea. And honestly, the scary part isn't the size of the ship, it's the technology hiding inside it. Every system on board connects together like one giant combat machine. The carrier doesn't just carry weapons anymore, it became the weapon itself. For over 50 years, American carriers launched aircraft using steam catapults. Massive pressure, violent force. You'd literally see jets getting thrown off the deck like rockets. It worked, but there was a problem nobody really talked about. The launches were brutal on aircraft, especially lighter drones and next-generation unmanned systems. And then, EMALS arrived. Instead of steam, the Ford class uses electromagnetic power to launch aircraft. A giant linear motor pulls the jet down the deck using magnetic force, which sounds insane already. But here's what makes it different. The launch feels smoother, more controlled, almost surgical compared to the old system. That smoother acceleration changes everything. Heavy F/A-18 Super Hornets can launch fully loaded with weapons and fuel. But at the exact same time, lightweight reconnaissance drones can also launch safely without getting ripped apart. Older steam systems simply couldn't do that consistently. And this is where people started realizing the Ford class wasn't just modern. It was built for the future. The carrier can generate around 160 sorties every single day during normal operations. In full combat surge mode, around 270 sorties in just 24 hours. Think about that for a second. Jets constantly launching, landing, rearming, and relaunching almost non-stop. No other aircraft carrier on Earth operates at that level right now. But here's the crazy part. Launching aircraft was only half the problem. Getting them back safely onto a moving ship in rough seas? That's where things become terrifying. Landing on an aircraft carrier has always been one of the hardest things a pilot can do. Imagine flying toward a tiny moving runway at high speed, at night, while carrying weapons and fuel. One mistake and everything's over in seconds. Older carriers used hydraulic arresting systems that basically slammed aircraft to a stop with enormous force. It worked, but the stress on the aircraft was brutal. Heavy fighter jet or lightweight drone, the system treated everything almost the same way. The Ford class changed that completely. The advanced arresting gear uses water turbines and digital controls to adjust stopping power automatically. Heavier aircraft get more resistance, lighter aircraft get less. Every landing becomes more controlled, smoother, and safer for both the pilot and the aircraft itself. And this was a massive breakthrough because unmanned aircraft suddenly became much easier to operate from carriers. Older hydraulic systems could seriously damage lighter drones during recovery. But AAG fixed that problem. The ship could now support an entirely new generation of carrier-based unmanned aviation. And when you combine AAG with EMALS, something bigger starts happening. The Ford class becomes the world's first fully integrated electromagnetic launch and recovery ecosystem. Everything works together. Every launch, every landing, every aircraft movement. The carrier starts operating less like an old warship, and more like a giant floating air warfare network. But even with all that technology, the deadliest weapon on the carrier still hasn't appeared yet. Because once the F-35C enters the picture, naval warfare changes again. The F-35C isn't just another fighter jet. Honestly, calling it a fighter almost undersells what this thing actually does. It's more like a flying command center built inside a stealth aircraft. And the moment it launches from a Ford-class carrier, the entire battlefield changes. At first glance, the jet looks smooth and almost unfinished. No weapons hanging outside, no giant fuel tanks under the wings. Everything sits inside internal weapons bays. That design dramatically reduces radar reflection, making the aircraft incredibly difficult to detect from long distances. And this is where it gets scary. The F-35C can travel roughly 1,200 nautical miles without refueling, deep into contested territory, deep enough to find enemy ships, air defenses, or missile batteries before most enemies even realize it's there. For a second, it can feel invisible, but the real power isn't stealth alone. The aircraft constantly collects information using advanced sensors, radar systems, and battlefield networking technology. Then it shares that targeting data instantly with nearby Super Hornets and other naval assets. The F-35C finds the target. Other aircraft fire from safer distances. That's network-centric warfare. One aircraft acting like the eyes of the entire strike group. And honestly, that's what makes this system so difficult to counter. Enemies aren't fighting one jet anymore. They're fighting an entire connected combat network moving together in real time. And what happens next gets even more dangerous because the missiles those aircraft carry are becoming smarter too. Most anti-ship missiles follow simple instructions. Launch, fly straight, hit target. But the LRASM works differently. This thing was designed to think during combat, and honestly, that changes everything once it leaves the aircraft. The missile flies extremely low across the ocean's surface, staying underneath enemy radar for as long as possible. Then, using onboard AI systems and sensors, it starts analyzing the battlefield on its own, not just searching for ships, searching for weak points. And this is where it gets dangerous. Instead of blindly striking the center of a vessel, LRASM can identify the most vulnerable sections of an enemy warship. Command areas, radar systems, critical infrastructure. It chooses where the damage will hurt the most. Its long-range capability makes interception incredibly difficult. And once an F-35C feeds targeting information into the network, the kill chain becomes terrifyingly fast. Even P-8 Poseidon aircraft can now launch LRASM, meaning threats can appear from multiple directions at once. By the time enemy defenses react, it may already be too late. Now hold on, because striking targets is only part of the story. Staying alive in modern naval warfare might actually matter more. And the Ford class was built to see threats before those threats even realize they've been detected. The carrier uses a powerful dual-band radar system combining S-band and X-band technology together. The S-band scans huge sections of sky and ocean for incoming threats, while the X-band locks onto targets with extreme precision once something suspicious appears. And this is where things escalate fast. The system can track hundreds of aircraft, missiles, and threats at the same time while feeding everything into the ship's integrated defense network. Even the carrier's island structure was made smaller to reduce radar visibility from long distances. Then comes the layered defense itself. ESSM missiles intercept threats farther away, while the Phalanx CIWS acts as the final shield, firing thousands of rounds per minute at incoming missiles seconds before impact. Every defensive layer overlaps the next, creating a floating fortress with battlefield awareness, almost constantly updating in real time. But here's what makes the Ford class truly different. It wasn't just built for today's weapons, it was designed for technologies that barely even exist yet. Deep inside the ship, two massive A-1B nuclear reactors generate far more electricity than older Nimitz-class carriers ever could. And that power has one purpose: future laser weapons. The Navy knew directed energy systems would need enormous energy, so the Ford class was engineered around them from the beginning. No ammunition, near unlimited firing capability, missiles destroyed at the speed of light. And compared to costly missile interceptors, laser defenses could completely change the economics of naval warfare forever. And then, something even bigger started happening above the flight deck. The MQ-25 Stingray is changing carrier warfare in a way most people still don't fully realize. It became the Navy's first carrier-based refueling drone, allowing dangerous long-range support missions to be handled without risking pilots. That instantly extends the range of F-35Cs and Super Hornets, operating deep into contested areas. But this wasn't only about fuel. EMALS can launch the drone smoothly, while AAG safely recovers it back on board, proving the Ford class was designed for unmanned aviation from the start. And this is only the beginning. The USS John F. Kennedy, Enterprise, and future Ford-class carriers are already expanding America's next-generation fleet across the oceans. Every new ship adds stealth integration, AI-guided weapons, drone warfare, and future laser defenses into one connected combat system. China's Fujian carrier is advancing fast, but decades of real operational experience still give the United States a major advantage at sea. It's extending it. The Ford-class carriers aren't experimental anymore. They're already sailing with some of the most advanced weapons ever placed at sea. And honestly, this may only be the beginning. Because the future of naval warfare is already happening right now, so which weapon shocked you most? Let me know below.